Okay, let's look at Angel Island Act 1. This level, at least the way that I do it, is the same for Knuckles and Tails. So we're going to just be doing the same thing. So obviously you skip the cutscene. Now, immediately, what we're going to do, and this section here, I have like an I.R strat that I do it right at the start. So this is very doable, especially if you don't mind resetting for it, but if not, there are some alternatives. So what we're going to do immediately is we're going to do a 6-tap spin dash, so that's 6 jumps, and then releasing down, which is the fastest spin dash. You might want to do fewer than 6 later on, but right now we want to do 6. So, right, 6-tap, and then we're going to glide and stop. Now, I've actually messed up here already, because we're teetering. And an important thing to know is that if Knuckles is teetering and you try and do a spin dash, he will go the wrong direction. As you can see, he went to the left instead of to the right, but then he just kind of fell off. So we're going to 6-tap spin dash and then immediately glide and stop in this position, right? And when you glide and stop, you're going to hold down, because as soon as you finish the glide, you're going to do a 6-tap spin dash again. So now you're on this loop. What you're going to do is when you're kind of at the 11 o'clock position, you're going to jump, because that's going to give you a lot more speed, because Knuckles is basically going to get a lot of speed off the bottom slope of the ramp. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get a very tight jump off of a slope, and that's kind of hard to explain without seeing it, so let's try this. Okay, I failed that bit. Kind of hard to do when you pause midway. So what I did there was I jumped off the slope. That's a mechanic in the game called slope jumping. Essentially, you can get like really good angles by jumping off of slopes. By jumping off that one, you can just skip over this whole section here, which is kind of like, it's like a mini IL strat, because slope jumps are not a basic thing to do. But essentially, all you need to do is get to the position that Knuckles is in, or about to be in now, and you can do the next bit. So I'm going to stop here to demonstrate it. If you got the good angle off the slope jump like I did then, you can just carry on and jump off this, and then you get this fire shield, because the fire shield's going to be helpful. Ben's going to love the fact I'm teaching people to get the fire shield, because he's a bad person. If you don't get the good angle, then what you're going to do is you're going to land here out of a glide, and then you're going to do a 3-tap. And then when you get to this hill, that hill that I was just on there, when you're about halfway down, you're going to jump and hold right. And then that's going to get you the fire shield. Now, we're getting the fire shield because 1, it's easier. 2, it's ever so slightly faster on the first boss of this area. And 3, because it makes the final boss of Act 2 really, really easy. So we're going to try and carry this through to Act 2 if we can. You can do the last boss without it, but your timing then gets tighter and the position you have to stand in gets more precise. And when you're new, that's going to kill a lot of runs. So it's kind of, I just think it's a good thing to have. I didn't originally. Ben convinced me. But here we go. So once you've got the fire shield, I get back round onto this flat bit of terrain in Angel on the just before this slope. I'm pointing at my screen like you can see that, but you can't obviously. So just before this slope, and then I do a 6-tap spin dash and jump. You don't need to do that. That's just how I do it. But if you can just like walk over, but essentially we're just getting towards the trapeze zipline thing over here. So you're just getting to this zipline, and then when we get to the end of the zipline, you're going to jump off of it when it's in like an upwards position, and then glide across to the little floating rock thing. Like this. So when you land here, you're going to hold down again, because you're going to go straight from this glide into a land into a spin dash. You're going to do a 6-tap spin dash, and then you're going to have 2 loops, and you're going to try and do loop jumps in those. And then you're just going to hold right till we get to the first mini-boss section. So there we go. So obviously you'd be here a lot faster. I think getting into the big tree tube thing by about 14 seconds is a pretty good goal. That's the kind of thing to aim for. Again, no stress. There's no cycles here to worry about. So I usually, for that boss, by the way, I just stand in the corner and spin dash till he's gone, and then I jump up here. So when we get to this spike, it's going to go up and down on like a screen-based cycle. So the cycle's never different depending on what time you arrive here. So it basically means you can consistently jump up here, and then I will charge a spin dash, and then I will jump when I'm at the bottom of this ramp on the flat section. If you jump on the ramp, you're going to hit either the springs or the rock. So you want to jump from the flat at the bottom, and then hopefully either, hit the rock on the top or just get over the rock either way. So just like that. Also, it's advantageous to do like a smaller jump, like not a full jump. If you do a full jump, you have a higher chance of hitting the springs. So just kind of like a half jump, I guess, and then you hold right here. So here, you can see where the waterfall ends and that slope begins. When I've just tucked over the edge of that slope, I do a jump onto the next platform. Again, there's like a kind of propulsion that you can do where you sort of jump a bit before that, and the game sends you flying to the other side like really quickly. But it does make it harder to deal with the enemy, and we're going for beginner consistency at the moment. So, plus I still do this in actual runs. So let's just go back to checkpoint and show that. Like that, and then you jump through the enemy and into the zip line. When you get to the end of the zip line, you're just going to glide out of it and then land immediately to charge a spin dash. Then you're going to do a a loop jump, and go straight through the Knuckles' path, do another spin dash, and you're in the boss. And we'll talk about boss strats when we get there. So, I do not have the fire shield. If you get here without the fire shield, this is what you do. You get Knuckles to stand in this position with his foot kind of... You see his foot kind of through the pause menu? There's a little line on the ground. That's where I get his foot in line with. And then you'll see the boss is coming up, and you've got these two lines of trees. So you've got, like, just below where the little flame jets are on the boss, you can see a line of trees just below it. When the little pointy bit on his nose is just about to cross over that line, that like wiggly line that's going across the screen, I will jump. And then when I jump, I will let Knuckles fall a little bit, and then I will hold right to fall into the boss. And this is going to let me jump on top of him, up like repeatedly, and get all 6 hits. So let's go through that. There you go. It's very important to let Knuckles drop a little bit first, because otherwise you'll still have upwards momentum when you hit the boss. You'll get pushed out to the left, which is what happens when you hit the hitbox of an enemy, is you get pushed in the other direction. Usually, unless you're going really fast. But you'll be going upwards instead of downwards, which means that you'll just fall to the left, because then you'll start plummeting down. Whereas if you yourself start falling first, then you'll bounce on top instead. That's going to be used a lot when we have Tails involved, because Tails is going to let you jump out of his flight onto the top of bosses. So that's going to be a big deal. Now, if we had the fire shield, and I'm not going to reset the whole thing to show that, but if we had the fire shield, you can stand on this bit here in between these two marks, and then when the boss comes down, you can just jump straight up without hitting any directions, and then you can hit the boss. So that's kind of the fire shield strat, and why it's slightly faster is because the flames underneath him don't hurt you when you have the fire shield. It makes you immune to fire. So you just bounce up and down, hit him, he dies. It's fairly self-explanatory, but anyway, let's try and put all that together. So I only got hit by 15, because that was really slow. But it's fine, you make it through. That's the main thing. So here, by the way, I should have mentioned, but here you can do whatever you want. Just try not to lose the fire shield. And then this is the fire shield strat. So one other thing, if you have Knuckles and Tails, then this next section in Act 2 is... I will not make a Sonic tutorial, Ben. This next section will essentially get harder, because what you're going to be doing in Act 2 involves a piece of destructible terrain that Tails can break. So what I usually do at the end of the act is to try and get Tails to stand just like a normal walking distance behind Knuckles, which takes a bit of wiggling, but you can see basically I'm going to move Knuckles back and forth, and it's just going to move Tails like behind him slightly into like a normal position. So that's what I usually do with the time after the level ends. So this position is fine. And important to note in Sonic 3 Air, once the score screen is started, you can hold down jump, and it's going to make the score screen go really quickly. I think it's just the primary jump button, by the way, that does that, not all of them, but don't quote me on that. I only ever use the primary one anyway.